Hello children, I'm sure you're doing really well. Children, today we will study a very important topic called verbs. Verbs will surely help you to improve your writing. Unit 5, verbs. To begin with, have a look at the picture given here. There is a group of students just like you standing here. And let's read the sentence along with me. They laughed at the joke. Pay attention to the action happening here. The word laughed shows the action in the sentence. Yes. So, laughed is the verb here. Let's start with the understanding of main and helping verb and what is the difference between them. A verb is the main part of a sentence. No sentence is complete without a verb. The verbs that stand alone in a sentence is called a main verb. So it can stand alone means it can remain separate. And it still holds a meaning. For example, I play cricket. Now, play is a main verb. Here, it stands alone. Now read the sentence. I am playing cricket. Here, main verb is play, helping verb is am. Thus, helping or auxiliary verb helps the main verb to describe an action. You can also remember it as an assistant. So, we have another name for helping verb, that is auxiliary. So, helping or auxiliary verb. The action may happen in the past or is happening in the present or will happen in the future. Following is a list of auxiliary words. Let's read along together. Am, could, have to, was, are, dare, is, were, be, did, may, will, be able to, do, does, might, would, been, going to, must, being, had, need, ought to, can, has, have, shalls, should. All these helping verbs will work along the main verb. You have an exercise here where you're supposed to use the helping verbs. Do try out. Next we have transitive and intransitive verbs. Main verbs are further divided. Main verbs are further divided into transitive and intransitive, finite and non-finite, and regular and irregular. Let's begin with transitive and intransitive first. Look at these sentences carefully. He drove a car to the stadium. We rode bikes to school. Children, in these sentences, the verbs show an action that passes from the doer to the receiver. So, we have a doer here who is doing the action, he, and somebody who is receiving. They are called transitive verbs. Transitive verbs always have an object. So, as we just read, an object is basically a receiver. So, transitive verbs will have both object and the subject. We ask the question whom or what to find the object of the verb in a sentence. Opposite to this, we have intransitive verbs. Let's read these sentences. The thief ran away. He slept till the afternoon. Next category is finite and non-finite verbs. Children, a finite verb is a verb that has a subject. That's it. This is the main thing to remember, that it consists of a subject. but it changes according to the number of the subject and also to show the tense or the time of action. A finite verb is often the main verb in a sentence, like she dances, we dance, we are dancing, she danced. Here, observe how it has changed according to the number of the subject. For example, she is singular, so she dances, and here the subject we is plural, so it changes to dancing. But the base verb remains the same. However, there are some verbs that do not change form according to tenses or numbers. They are called non-finite verbs. So, there is no change. And they never act as the main verb in a sentence. There are three types of non-finite verbs. Infinitives are of the form to plus verb or to be plus verb. So, the three types of non-finite verbs: first, infinitives, then gerunds, and third one, participles. So, examples of infinitives where we use the pattern to plus verb or to be plus verb. I want to visit Shimla this summer. I like to walk in the rain. So, it's very easy to identify infinitives. You will have to followed by a main verb here also. Gerunds also are very peculiar. Gerunds are ing form of verbs that are used as nouns. For example, swimming is a good way to keep fit. Observe, ing is added to which base form? Right, swim. So, swim becomes swimming. Running is the best exercise. So, this is the gerund form, that is ing form, running. Participles of a verb are formed by adding ing, d, ed, ir, t to the main verb. They work as adjectives in a sentence. Let's read along. He sat on a broken chair. This is an interesting book. So here they are describing these nouns. What kind of a chair? Broken. What kind of a book? Interesting. That's why the function becomes that of an adjective. Now we come to regular and irregular verbs. The main verbs which take the suffixes ed or t in their past and past participle forms are called regular or weak verbs. So here only addition of some suffixes happen. Let's read along. So we have in this column present, past and past participle. Three forms. Admire in present changes to admired, admired. In both the other forms only d is added. Bend, bent, bent. Call, called, called. Decorate, decorated, decorated. Similarly, fear, feared, feared. Learn, either learn or learned, or learned, learned. Both are correct. Lend, to give something to someone. Lend, lent, lent. Select, selected, selected. So regular verbs are pretty simple to remember. You just have to add suffixes, which are these. These are the verbs that form their past and past participle by a change in the vowel of their present base forms. Let's read their table. In this table, you will see the changes. Here we are not just adding some suffixes. Read the following example of irregular or strong verbs. Unlike the weak ones, these are strong or irregular. So we have a base verb then the present tense, then past form and the past participle. B. In present it is am is are, in past was were, and then past participle is been. Then begin. Begin, began, begun. Do, did, done. Children, these are also called the three forms of verbs, or V1, V2, V3. Draw, drew, drawn. Drive, drove, driven. Eat, ate, eaten. Fly, flew, flown. Give, gave, given. Freeze, froze, frozen. See, saw, seen. Speak, spoke, spoken. Swim, swam, swum. Throw, threw, thrown. Now we're going to read about helping verbs or auxiliaries in detail. Children, auxiliaries or helping verbs are the words which not only help the main verbs in the completion of their meaning but also determine their tense. तो बच्चों auxiliary verb भी उतने ही important हैं जितने की main verbs. Some auxiliaries or helping verbs like various forms of be can be used as main verbs, in which case they become linking verbs which link the subject with the complement. For example, she is angry. So here she is the auxiliary verb and it is linking both subject and complement. We have various kinds of auxiliaries. There are three main kinds of auxiliaries: primary, modal. Let's start with primary auxiliaries and study about them. Different forms of the main verbs do, be and have are do, does, did, is, am, are, was, were, has, have, had. These are called primary auxiliaries and you will see them almost everywhere. The compound primary auxiliaries has been, have been, had been, do, does, did, not have are formed by combining different forms of do, have and be. So based on the primary ones, we join and make compound ones also. Second, modal auxiliaries. Modals are helping verbs such as can, must, may, might, will, would, should that are used with other verbs to show that something is certain, possible or not possible. So they point towards a lot of different possibilities and each modal verb is used differently. Modals are also used to express ability. These are the different categories: obligation, possibility, and to seek permission and make requests and offers. So each category will have a different modal auxiliary for it. Let us understand the use of modals. In case of can is used to show what? Ability, for permission, for request, for suggestion, for possibility and to offer. So all these situations refer to can. Can be used everywhere here. I can speak 3 languages. So that's your ability. You can. You may not choose to speak all, but that's your ability. Can I borrow your pen, please? This is seeking permission. You're asking. Can you wait for a moment? You're requesting somebody. Can we order pizza tonight? That's a suggestion you're making. It can get cold soon. So that's a possibility that you see. And I can look after the pup for you. That is the offer you're making. The next modal verb, could. Now, could can be used for again various situations to show ability in the past, for permission, for probability, for request, for possibility, and to offer also, such as I could speak French when I was a child. So it is showing ability, but in the past. This person could speak French. He had that ability, but not now. In the past, when he was a child. Could I leave early today? That's a permission. He could have left it by mistake. That's a possibility. Not sure. Could I use your phone to make a call? Well, that's clearly a request. It could get very hot in Jaisalmer. That's a possibility, but not surety. I could lend my ladder for a day. That's an offer. Now we have another modal verb, may, which is used for possibility, for permission, for suggestion, such as it may rain today. May I sit here, please? May I help you? And then we have must. So, must is used slightly differently for force, advice, and possibility. We must obey traffic rules. Now, that's like an obligation. Forcefully, you want this rule to be followed. You must see a doctor. That's a very strong advice. Whenever you want to give a very strong advice to somebody, you will use this modal verb. And in case of possibility, it is quite dark. It must be very late. Should. Should is used for advice, polite suggestion, and prediction. You should board the bus carefully. That's the advice you're giving. Should I call a doctor? That's a polite suggestion. You're not forcing the person. You should board the bus carefully. You're predicting that if not being careful, then there could be some trouble. The next modal verb is will. It is used for polite request, prediction, spontaneous decision, and habits. Will you help me with my homework? That's a polite request. It will rain on Friday. That's a prediction made for Friday. It will help you carry the bags. That's a quick spontaneous decision made by the speaker. Manya will always be late. That's the habit, regular habit of Manya. So here we can use will to express such a thing. Would. Would is used for polite request and for past habits. Would you help me carry this bag? She would play for long hours with her dolls. That's a habit. Shall. Used for suggestion. Shall I help you carry the bag? That's just a suggestion. Ought to. Ought to is used for advice and for obligation. Like, you ought to ride your bike carefully. So this is not a simple advice but very strong advice. Ought to is used to express something very, very strongly. You ought to save. This is also obligation, something very, very strong, a point you want to make. Might is used for possibility, which is not sure. It might rain today. It might not also. So, here it clearly implies possibility. Dear children, I hope you enjoyed learning about all these verbs and especially the new kinds of verbs. Do read all the rules, the lists, and try to make as many new verbs as possible. Try out all the practice exercises given in this chapter.